Regular meeting of Harlan Community School District, July 17. I think I got the right month there. 2023. Yeah, okay. Okay, and on the Finance Committee we have Hazelton, Albertson, and Policy Blatt, Hertzberg, and Reichel. And so, first of all, we'll call the meeting to order and determine that we do have a quorum here. 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 7. And so we can go ahead. If that sounds all right with you, Catherine?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the second item is B, that this is a public forum, and we'll ask if anyone requested, any citizens asked to participate?
Nope.
Not today?
Not
Okay.
today.
Item C is to approve the agenda. Any discussion on the agenda?
Nope.
I move its approval.
Okay.
I'll second.
Alan making the motion and Jade seconding. Okay, so next we'll go to item D, discussion items, and we'll turn it over to Dr. Jenny Bernard.
Well, my report was just earlier. We had a great groundbreaking, and a lot of people were very supportive. So we just appreciate that. That was
Great.
fun. Yes. Next time, if we do it again, we'll do it a little more than a half an hour before our board meeting.
Yeah.
We can stay there
Chat,
longer, chat a little more.
The construction people said it was a large turnout compared to any that they had.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I thought it was a huge turnout.
Oh,
Good.
great.
He really said it was
He
quite
did.
large.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. That's awesome.
Steven said that.
Mhm.
Nice.
Not sure.
I told him you should have to come to the board meeting. He's like,
Steven?
why? Is there any project-wise? I'm like, no, you should just have to come.
Right.
Yeah. Ryan, can you?
Accept.
Okay, that's all I
Well-
have for now. Oh,
Is it legislative priorities a discussion?
Oh, yes, it is, but we don't have it on a,
It's number 3.
Yeah, it's number 3.
it's on,
Mhm.
We have your report, then facility committee update.
okay, well, do you wanna do the facility
Sure.
Yes.
committee update? Is there
Sounds good.
anything you guys wanna add, or,
Yeah, I think you've done very
Yeah.
well on your Friday reports. They've been very informative, and I really like the way you put it out to the public. It's very transparent and accurate, and
And you announced it as just
Just
out there
now,
where
yeah.
we were as far as the timeline.
Yeah.
We're not really going beyond the timeline we originally said, just shifting some things
shifting
around.
some things around, yeah?
have you had any other issues that have come up since
We
our last
Have not.
board meeting?
No other issues, and if there are questions from the public, please call or email us, we're happy to answer those.
Yeah, it's like a
And if you'd
veneer.
like to come up and see the auditorium too, I mean, you can come, that door's open, so you can kind of just peek in and see.
They are pouring calipers, too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, calipers.
The architect was
What'd you
going
call
there.
I said
Catapult.
catapult.
She said
'cause
catapult, I was like,
nervous.
calipers.
Thank you, Jane, I was like, yeah.
Fun to watch.
Gonna go into battle.
We're having some catapults. We
Not
got a
catapults.
scope change. Catapults.
It's a new sport.
Yeah.
Right. It
And
probably could.
the other day we went by where they're putting the new sewer pipe in, and that
Oh, yes.
one, a lot of dirt had to come out.
Yes.
Get down
And you
there.
turn it off.
Holes
Yeah.
in the pipe,
Yeah.
in the lunchroom.
Is
Yes.
it-
That's
is it-
interesting to see.
Yeah, the big hole in the lunch.
Yeah. you'll-
Concrete was twice as thick as they thought it
Oh,
should be.
really?
Yes, it was, that was a
Shocker.
surprise.
They are ready to start putting
Yep, they
cement
found the
back
leaks
down.
and
So the
put the
leaks
dirt
fixed.
back in, so now we can put it back
Fantastic.
together.
Is the money side of things going good as far as the bonds and all that?
Yep, we're right on target where we should be.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah, the guys have done good keeping us updated, so.
Yeah.
And so do you want to address these legislative priorities? I
Yeah.
printed this off. It's quite a handful of
It is a lot.
legislative
Mhm.
priorities.
And I think that what they do is they ask every single board to give their 3 to 5 priorities, and then when you go to IASB to their conference,
Delegate assembly.
there's a delegate assembly.
Yep.
And they go through each one, and then you vote.
Yep.
So Joe is our representative there, so we did it last year. So they just want us to give our 3 to 5. So that's your decision. I just kind of gave you what I,
At our last ambassador training, I can tell you the 3 things that the legislative delegates that work for IASB thought were pretty up there, and it's stuff we've talked about. Preschool funding. The second one would be the teacher scarcity, how to handle that, and
Mental health probably.
Yeah, mental health was, that really didn't get addressed heavily at the committee that I was at, but that is one of the things that is discussed.
Yeah, and then student supplemental assistance.
The adequate funding, yeah.
That also did, we really got talked to about a number of them, but the two biggest ones were the preschool funding, because that, I have some pretty good graphs if you'd like to see that, where a 2 and 3 year olds correlate, compare those that had some type of early access to education versus those that did not, how their scores correlate with one another side by side with those, even as you get into middle school. The success of students is pretty paramount to early access to that, and they kind of need some wraparound care, funding, and then the teacher scarcity was the two main ones discussed at our. And then yes, I would say mental health is becoming an increasingly large thing, and
Yes, and here they have much of what you've talked about. I would, this is just one person's opinion from one of the districts, but one of my concerns is the declining enrollment in Iowa. And I believe that's, and this is nice that we want to close achievement gaps and set expectations. I'm not so sure money's always the answer to achievement. I believe sometimes we might need to spend less and want more. So that's just one person's opinion. The federal government has over $30 trillion of money borrowed in Iowa. Is one of the top 10 tax states in Iowa, and so we can teach all these kids all this good stuff, but if they're going to be exiting our state because it's punitive, that's unfortunate, and I would like to see some of those ideas. The other thing is everybody wants a monopoly, and schools do too, and I'm not, they say here that they say RSAI as opposed to voucher programs. I personally like competition, and I think it's good for us to have to compete with other schools and be as good as any school that could come about. And, so I'm not opposed to voucher systems. So that's a couple of ideas anyway.
that wasn't very heavily talked about at the, probably for controversial reasons, but yeah.
What was the consensus?
Well, you have some of the bigger districts where, like the Waukees of the world they're over 700 new enrollment every year, whether that be live birth, open enrollment, that sort of thing. They're having trouble getting teachers to teach all of those kids. So I don't know. There's some, we in more rural areas are probably going to see maybe not in Harlan, we don't have a terrible amount of competition, but in some of those bigger places, it's definitely more controversial. They didn't seem to, the consensus I got was they didn't love the new legislation.
I would agree with you too. The competition's fine as long as we're all on the same playing field. And right now, with the way that the vouchers are, they don't have the same rules we do, so it's hard. It's hard to.
What hoops they have to jump through is different, and that's
A lot different. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they have the same, then you're right. And we are fortunate here in Harlan to have a great school system that academics is our kids are good. We've got teachers. We're doing fine, but just Iowa in general, like you said, the rural areas are seeing a little bit more decline than the
Which I think is set to continue to go
national.
down,
Yeah.
especially in Iowa. I think they said at one of our meetings, 100% of our move into the state is immigration, not necessarily other people from other states coming in. So, which seems to be a way bigger problem than just our school systems, but.
And what do you feel, Dr. Burnett, about the flexibility issue? When do we go too far as teacher requirements and certifications and all that?
Right, I think that's a fine line. I mean, because you want good teachers, like you said. If we want to be competitive, we want to have good teachers that are going to push kids that know the content. So yes, and I think Iowa's done a good job of that. I mean, they're trying to recruit teachers, but they're also not saying just anyone can get their teaching license.
The new
So-
legislation that was being proposed was that people could watch, not even Zooms, but could just watch videos that would take, I'll be careful in how I word that to make sure it's correct, but that would take the place of maybe like classroom setting. And I think some of the discussion around that was there's really not a way to get a classroom setting feel outside of the classroom setting. But they are trying to make legislation possible where more teachers can be qualified in alternative methods. But that wasn't overly loved either at the, which I could see for various reasons, so.
Yeah, it's, one of the things, as far as the para teachers, is probably a good situation where they can put down some roadblocks. I mean, especially if they have the experience, and they can make it easier for them to find their place in the system.
And they,
That
I
seemed to
mean,
make
Governor
sense.
Reynolds passed that, the TPRA, so the teacher, or the para two teacher track. And we, it's a grant, and it's been nice, because we have 3 paras right now that we are, you know, we've gotten through the grant, that they're gonna be teachers, so they know our
They can get paid for
system.
their student teaching.
They're
right?
getting paid to work for us as a para while they're taking their classes outside of here, so that's helpful, yes.
Brian
yes.
says there's 4.
I know, but I think
No,
that.
we don't know for sure on the one how far she is along.
Yeah, yeah,
I guess.
yes, we have 3 for sure that are, yeah,
Yeah, maybe 4.
possibly 4.
Maybe 4.
Yeah.
I think mental health is a good one too, which we are doing, like we discussed in previous meetings, what we can by making education available and opportunities for kids. Whether we like it or not, it is something our community is seeing.
That's something too that I don't think costs a lot of money, it's just the awareness of it, because we're doing it, we're getting people in here that we're not, they're professionals in here that we aren't paying for, they're helping kids, so.
That's a great expertise that,
So those 3 things?
yeah.
Wait, any?
You're more well versed on it than me, so.
Well, just,
Yeah.
just from that,
Yes. Yeah,
conference
I
that I was
wasn't
at.
that, so.
Yeah, yeah,
You
And
learned something.
preschool is always, has been on the agenda for a really long time, and part of that is because you only get funded half of a student for a preschool
I
student.
see.
So it's great to have full day preschool, but when you only have, you only get the funding for half, it's hard. Or in our case, we have full sections in all of our half-day preschool, so we would have to hire 2 more teachers, so.
So we're talking about just presenting 3 priorities from us? or
3 to 5.
3 to 5,
is
yeah.
what we need.
It seems like, so of those 3, the SSA was not part of that, just the adequate funding?
I think adequate funding in preschool could be, I mean, they're
Maybe.
separate, but they're the same. I just think, like 3, adequate funding is always on the table.
Well, I would think that they would want to have something, we want to have something that the legislature sees. We don't want any more unfunded mandates, you know, if we can help it. And so making sure that those are, I think it's a good idea to address those. I mean, I would think that that might be part of that SSA priority. Every school is going to have, most schools are going to have these that we list,
Yes,
but
yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
So as far as priorities, Jade, Al, you both are involved there, what would you pass on?
I would go with the 3, and then I would like to see us maybe have that for just priority of making sure they're funding and stuff they're making us do.
Could you repeat those 3?
I've got preschool funding, teacher shortage, mental health, and
Student supplemental,
the SSA.
Adequate
SSA.
funding,
adequate funding.
That adequate funding gives it a little
Yeah.
broader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
It is.
That fits what you just said too, Al, the unfunded mandates.
Okay, thank you.
Does that sound reasonable, Jade?
I think so, that seems to be the consensus throughout the state, what the need is these things we've discussed, so.
Good.
Great, thank you.
And it's a discussion item, so shall we move on?
Sure.
Okay, so we'll move on to item E, action items, the personnel report.
We didn't have any resignations this month, you
Yeah.
guys. But, we've had one new elementary para hire and we've offered 2 more, but, things are just, it's the timing. So I'll have 2 more for, next month and that's it. I mean, it's short and sweet.
I do know that Anthony's started the ground running, our new athletic director, and he and Bill are working on these coaching.
Yeah, obviously middle school volleyball is a priority as
Yes.
the season's getting ready to come up.
Middle
Yes.
school football, those two.
Middle
And
school
football.
football,
Mhm.
yep.
Whose position is that? Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Yeah, are they
He filled in for a year.
Okay.
grade specific, 8th for volleyball?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, we can find that out.
No, I'm just out of curiosity. Because I have an 8th grader.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
I was under the I don't know who resigned, so we'll have to see.
Okay.
We'll ask Anthony. Anthony is in Iowa City. He went
I
up
think
with
they're
team list.
additional. I think these are additional.
because of the numbers.
Mhm.
They might be.
On the volleyball, I believe that's correct, because there's so many kids that
Mhm.
they're, I think it's a shared one.
Which is good.
Mhm.
I'm glad we have
That's
numbers in our
no
program.
Yeah.
We need,
Yeah, just kind of, you know,
yeah,
safety and numbers.
agreed. Okay.
Any more discussion?
Yeah.
Someone would like to make a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Jay to approve the personnel report. A second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. Next, we have action item 2, which is approval of the ISFIS membership, okay, which is the Iowa School Finance Information System.
Yes.
So there's these 3 are just memberships that we've belonged to for quite a while. Brian can talk about ISFIS a little bit, but I will say, as a new superintendent, they provide all kinds of good learning for us. If we need them, we can call them. They help us do the projected budget model. They do great things for us. So that, and then the next one is Association of School Boards, which you guys all know what they do for us. And then the Rural School Advocates of Iowa is something that we've joined, and they're very good too. And they're just a phone call away. So it's not like a big organization that they don't really help you. And they have lots of resources. And RSAI is also that grant that I was just talking about. They do all of the administrative work that we don't have to do. So.
These 3 actually, past practice, these are things probably they wouldn't have to be board approved, but past practices, we've always approved all the board level memberships. So that's the reason we bring them during July every year.
I'm taking notes. I'm not randomly texting.
So,
But yeah, and ISFIS does a lot of stuff for us. They just really do, and ISB, obviously, that speaks for itself.
What do we get from IASB? We get their attorneys.
I'll let
Policies.
her speak.
And the
Legal is a big
policies.
piece of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And, just their website, which
Yeah,
you can.
A lot of
you-
financial
yep,
driven information.
yeah.
access to lots of advice on there too.
And it's there for us as board
Mhm.
members. It's
Yep.
more for board members, than it is for administration. Administration does more through SAI or
Sorry.
Yeah.
ISFIS or something like that, but ISB is specifically there to be
Is
for
that
board
roughly
members
what
to
we
get help.
pay every year?
Yeah, they're all student driven.
Yep.
They're all student driven.
Kind of a formula based on,
That's the way both, RSAI is a flat fee, the other 2 are all student driven, and that was passed by them quite a number of years ago, because it used to be a flat fee, and it was
Sure.
kind of hard on the smaller schools.
Sure.
okay, could we have a motion for the first one? Approval of the Iowa School Finance Information
I'll
System
make that
membership.
motion.
Moved by Greg, and seconded. by Al. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Next, we have the approval of the IASB membership.
So moved.
So moved by Al,
Second.
seconded by Greg. All those in favor, aye.
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 Those opposed, no. Next, we have the approval of the RSAI, the Rural School Advocates of Iowa membership. And would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
We got that Greg on that.
I might have missed it, what's up?
This is the
Rural
Rural
School
School Advocates
School
of Iowa.
Advocates.
Oh, okay.
This is the one we do a lot of, like, well, this TPRA grant, they do
that work for us,
Oh,
so we don't have to do
okay.
any of
They
it. It's
do
totally worth it.
all the,
Yeah.
I'll
We
second
just
it. I just
second
wanna make
it.
sure I knew what I was seconding.
And they do, it's Margaret Buckton, so
Oh,
they do all the lobbying.
Oh, yeah, I've
all
talked to
that.
her
Yeah,
multiple
she's
times.
very, it's like you can call her and
Yeah.
she,
Yep.
yes.
Okay, yep.
And that's an excellent point. We always want to know what we're doing. It's too easy
What we're
to be a
paying
rubber
for?
stamp.
Right.
Mhm, Yeah,
We
yeah.
don't want that. We want
I will remember that the next time I take up time for things
You got it.
I don't
You got
understand.
it, Jen.
You don't.
So let's see, we had a motion and a second.
Yep.
Greg and
Okay.
myself.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Next, we have action item E5, which is the approval of resolution for transfer of funds for athletic equipment.
real quickly, this is something we do annually. Any facility rental that we get, and I'm gonna use an example, if we host a state tournament game, we get fees. That's all kept in one account, revenue account, and that is used to fund part of our equipment refurbishment that we have to do. Specifically, the big expensive one is obviously the helmets. And so, past practices, we've always used that to help fund the equipment refurbishment. We do have to do it by a board resolution because it's actually transferring it from one fund to another.
Is there a differentiation between athletic and activities, or it's all kept under the same
It's
pot?
activity, it's same pot.
But it could go to fund anything
You could go to fund
necessary?
anything.
Oh, okay.
But essentially what we're doing is we're transferring it from the general fund to the activity fund to subsidize, because essentially that's what the funds are coming in for, essentially.
So these will go for helmets?
You would
That's
I think we-
typical.
Oh, that's an example?
Yeah,
That's an
Okay,
example.
gotcha.
But it could, like, if, once our auditorium gets up and running and we can host a state event for speech or
Yeah.
whatever.
Sure.
Then that money goes in that pot first and then we can.
But I think to
spread it
Jade's
out.
question, why do we call it athletic equipment why don't we call it
Because that's
something
what
else?
they, in the grand scheme of things, we could use it for arguably activities, because that's such a costly item to do with the helmets. I think that's what they've always chose to do, because it's an extremely costly thing.
So Brian, could we change, can we just change that to funds for athletic/activity equipment?
You absolutely could.
And
It
then
would make
that
sense
would-
to me.
that would be-
because
That was just why my question.
I thought it was a great
You-
point
Is
to bring
it-
up.
Yeah, you absolutely could.
So can we just, if we did a motion, can we do a motion to
Just make
accept the
motion.
resolution and change the title to
Yeah.
athletic/academic?
Yeah.
Okay. Or activities equipment, would that be?
The way the resolution is written, you probably would have to table this in theory because of the way the resolution is written right now.
I was wondering about that.
Or we could change it for next year too.
But we could change it for next year.
Well,
I don't have.
but
a-
I think what Jade's saying is it's fine if we use the money for what we're gonna use it with
Right.
now, so then maybe we
But
just bring
going
that
forward.
back. So I think we can approve this, and then we bring it back.
Yeah, because something
just
outside
change
of
the title.
athletic just wouldn't
Yeah.
work this year.
Sure.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
That was just a
It's not a
question.
ton of money,
Yeah.
it's,
I'm sorry, we're gonna change it,
we're gonna
bring
approve
back
it. I
next
mean,
month or next year.
I don't know, we could bring it back next month and just change the
Probably
title.
making those purchases soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
I'd
actually
say
happen in
we should
July.
I think
Approve
you
it.
I
approve
think I'd
it.
approve it and with
and then
the idea of going
If
forward,
it's
we
in a,
change
is it
it.
in a
For next year,
policy?
we'd change
Is
it.
this in anything? So then next year we just change the
Yep.
title?
Yeah,
It's catapulting
Can
might
you
be a
write
sport.
that down?
It
Right.
would be.
I'll put it-
I'm not gonna live that one down. I always
I'll
throw,
just
like
change
I
it for next
stop
year.
myself when I talk about it.
Can we have a motion from someone
I will
to?
make that motion.
Okay, so this is.
Oh,
the-
wait, yep, this is a roll call.
Okay?
Second.
Okay, second by Greg, and this is for the approval of the board resolution to transfer funds for athletic equipment. Roll call, Jay,
Yes.
Greg,
Blatt, aye.
Hazelton, aye.
and Rachel, aye. Okay, it carried unanimously. And so next we'll go to action item E6, approval of resolution appointing paying agent, bond registrar, and transfer agent, approving the paying agent, bond registrar, and transfer agent agreement, and authorizing the execution of the same. That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that means.
That's
Brian,
what you're.
Brian.
Somebody go ahead and
Talk
explain
about
that.
that.
I have a
I
question.
asked him, yeah.
No, that's the question.
That's the question. Who are we executing?
Yeah.
Items 6, 7, 8, and 9 are all,
Yeah.
those are action items we have anytime we have a borrowing for a general obligation bond. So, and I'm,
You knew
without,
all these?
No.
You're a
anytime you
genius.
have it, we have to determine who a paying agent is, and the paying agent, in our case is UMB, the bond registrar, the transfer agent, and I'm gonna kind of do these from memory, but I believe that they do that also. The paying agent, if I had this open right now, I could read them all, but essentially what it's doing is saying, okay, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do this. We have to appoint those every time.
And that's under state statute.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, all 4 of these are state statute driven.
Okay.
Yeah, you come and look at these.
Yeah.
You're gonna sign these later,
Yeah.
Jim.
Okay.
Essentially, this is a rinse and repeat exactly what we did in December.
The first,
Oh,
we did it
the
in
first time
December
we
as well
sold.
with the first,
Okay.
with the first round.
Okay.
We have to approve them all separately.
Yes, you do.
Roll call.
Oh, we do have to roll.
Roll call on each one, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's do number 6. Any other discussion, or could we get a motion for?
I think this kind of goes back to my question last month, and I guess I'm comfortable with this, but it's, so if somebody is wondering who these people are that we're approving, they can come into the office and find out, and rather than, it just seems like it should be in the motion, but maybe it's too much wording. It's like when we did the bids, you know?
This is specifically what our legal counsel says,
Okay,
the wording.
okay,
Exactly, they tell you exactly what the wording is supposed to
good.
be.
Well, it's-
And is this publicized somewhere?
It would be public information for anybody that would want to know.
To know who our registrar is, who our paying agent is.
I don't really want to screw
Yeah, we don't.
No,
need
not
to-
if they
We don't need to know as
specifically said
long
that's
as, I don't
Yeah,
think.
it's public information.
We believe you, just
It's
wanted
all
to
public
set that, make sure it was public.
Yep.
Yeah.
So to Al's question,
Okay,
It is all public information.
I'll do the motion.
okay, we have a motion from Al for item number 6. I'm not gonna say it again. because we said it once. And the second by Greg. Okay, so we'll have a roll call vote. Jay,
Albertson, aye.
Blatt, aye.
Hazelton, aye.
Rachel, aye. So we're carried, and so next
I will
we
make a motion for number 7.
okay.
I'll second.
And so this is for the approval of form of tax exemption certificate. Roll call vote, Albertson,
Aye.
Blatt, aye.
Hazelton, aye.
Rachel, aye. Carried. Item number 8, the approval of continuing disclosure certificate.
So moved.
So moved by Jade and seconded by Greg. Roll call vote, Albertson,
Aye.
Blatt, aye.
Hazelton, aye.
Rachel, aye. Motion carried. And so we are to
We're
item
blowing things up outside? What was
Nine.
that?
I don't know what that is on the roof.
And 9 is the resolution amending the resolution authoring the issuance of bonds. So I suspect this falls in with the others, right, Brian? As a legal.
Seems counterproductive to amend resolutions we've authorized, but whatever.
I know, I just.
So moved.
So moved by Jade
Second.
and seconded by Greg.
What are we amending?
Right.
With some wording.
Resolutions that we've already authorized,
I know
clearly.
that there was some wording changed or something, right?
Brian?
I would assume so.
Yes.
That's what the lawyer said that it needed to say.
Right.
I did make a motion.
You did?
I did.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yep, I got it.
Great.
Albertson, aye.
Blatt eye.
Basically,
Aye. Rachel, aye. Motion carried. So we are to action item 10. And so this is the policy review, the July legislative changes. I might ask, first of all, perhaps if Dr. Barnett could just explain this. I think there might be some confusion because we're accustomed to doing policy reviews, which are often have some input from the Iowa Association of School Boards. But this idea of legislative changes, I don't quite understand how this process is happening.
So,
you can't, Jake,
You have to leave it open?
I think so. I think.
Oh, yeah. We're just so used to it at night that there isn't any, sorry.
No,
So, the legislative changes, so this is different, so this would be the first reading for the legislative changes, Jim. So basically, any of the laws that were passed in this last legislative session come to effect usually July 1st. I mean, we've had a couple, like the bathroom law was immediate, so we put that in right away when we did that. So all of these, there were several related to education that came to effect July 1. So we had to put them on this, and we could have put them in like as your first reading as well, but we just were trying to say, okay, here's the first and second readings that we normally have on our roll, and then here's a whole new slew that are gonna be in there. So that's why
They're
it
already
was,
scheduled out, and so I thought, rather than just adding them to the first policy, that would have made that thing, well, this one's 50 pages, so that would have made that one
This was my
75.
50-plus page. one,
Yes,
Not the
yes,
other one. Yeah.
yeah.
So this is similar to the other,
first reading,
reading
it's
and
a
second.
first reading
Mhm.
of all of these policies,
Mhm.
along with our normal
Mhm.
first readings that we do every,
so that's going to, so you're suggesting there will be a second
there has to be a
reading
second reading
next
of
month
these.
to
Yep,
this specific
yep.
set of July changes.
now, and if we change anything today, does that make it a first reading again then next month?
Probably.
Mhm.
Which is okay, I mean, because this is the first time that you've
Right.
seen these, or we've seen these too.
Right.
So it's different on the other ones. The other ones that we have for first and second readings are policies that we've had over and over,
Sure.
for a while,
And
so.
since it's legislative, how much,
Yeah, this is, that's where one of my
Legislative,
questions
so-
come in, Greg, is the idea here, it says this legislative, is the assumption that all changes in policies are legislative, or are they IASB? Where is the source of this
So
coming
the
from?
source is, so they're all new laws, and then what happens is those laws get thrown isn't the right word, given to lawyers. So we could send all of these policies to our lawyers if we so choose. And it would be very expensive to have them go through and say, here's where we think what you should do. What we start with is always IASB, which is why we pay that fee for them to give us sample policies. So
And they're using lawyers, so.
IASB is using their lawyers too.
Yeah.
So,
Basically, all she does is write.
We're getting how they interpret.
It's
What the
exactly how it's
legislation
interpreted.
says.
So, but
There-
this is a
there
board,
is
That's
what
exactly
I'm
what we're
trying
getting.
to
We're getting how
understand.
IASB interprets
Yes.
what legislative.
So we are not
you're not
responding to
bound,
the law.
Right.
you're not bound, you as a board get to choose how you want to word those things. So like that one time when we had one, like the shall and the may, I can't remember what.
Yes,
It's a
That-
it was
library.
about
It's a-
somebody wanting to address the board.
Yeah, so then we chose not to take their example of policy, and we don't have to do that here. It's just a lot
It is a
that
lot.
came through to us, and we didn't get IASB's
Primer.
primer until last week, so then it's super hard, so, but
that
there
makes
does have to
sense.
be two readings, so definitely we can
Yeah, they didn't get it till 1st of July, obviously, so.
See, that's just it. What's hard is that it's passed as a law, but then
Yeah.
there's so many things to interpret.
It's kind of interesting, it's a little bit of an interesting dynamic to me that if there's a statute, and until it's approved in our policy, we could be in competition with the state policy, or we could be
Out of
in-
compliance.
out of compliance with state
Yeah.
policy. But I think that if it came down to, if push came to shove, we would have to go with what they said, because it's statute. So there's this couple of months, we're a
Yeah.
couple of month time where we're not where they are yet, but we have to be, we just haven't proved it.
Yeah.
Kind of like
And some
hiring
things
somebody and
we
then we
have,
prove it
we
later.
have a existing policy that we need to update, so,
Yeah.
but some we don't, and some, yeah.
I'll tell you, one of the things I do not like is I don't like the idea in here that a number of times they've inserted this, that, and we're gonna comply with all the laws. Yet this is such a, what should I say, such a nebulous thing when you say this is the law, but it's not really the law. I mean, they really put us at a, and then they also have this idea that the local boards can have a say. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, we have local control on some things.
Yeah,
But when they say this is the law and it's not the law, I don't like to be.
Well, it is the law.
it's.
But
yeah.
their interpretation of
Right,
the law
we're-
says not the
yeah,
law.
Oh, you
We're
mean it's
getting there.
IASB's interpretation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I hear what you're
Yeah.
saying.
There's such a gulf between what did the legislature, unless we become
This is what the
lawyers and
legislature
really
Right.
understand
passed
what
is
the
what-
legislature passed
As being,
and what they've,
Yeah.
IASB's presented to us.
Right.
Because I suspect that the IASB has to take care of a lot of school districts, and there's a lot of influences that they've got to try and satisfy, and there's probably some divergence of opinions of how
Oh,
that
I'm
should come
sure.
down.
Well, I'm on that board, so I know that, they are representing hundreds of school districts.
Yeah.
And so they are gonna put suggested wording out, and our local control says, if it doesn't change the substance of what the state law says, we're fine. I think. Yeah.
I have particular questions that I've talked to these guys about on a couple of them.
Go ahead.
Bring them up now.
Yeah.
Could I perhaps speak to what the committee has talked about first, and then, let's
Yeah,
see.
I wasn't on committee, but I did read.
This month, Greg and I and Joe were on the committee, although I know Joe and I reached out to several others about it. I think I can speak, well, first of all, I think I say that there's a reason why we have some new board members this last 2 years ago, and I think some of that's because the town, because our district and the people in our various districts want to have some common sense on the school board. And so I think this, as mentioned, whether this is a place where we should stand, I guess they always have that silly expression, the place to take your stand to die or something. But this might be a place, maybe we
Hill to
should,
die on,
hill to die on. We should, say something for the benefit of our districts. And I think I can speak from Joe and Al. I think Greg was most concerned whether we breaking the law, and so we pursued that. But I think we all three on the committee at least agree that I don't feel Harlan is, the community school district is ready for the culture wars that have started on the East Coast and the West Coast. And I think most of us would just on a common sense say, most family units revolve around a man and a woman, and when you want to add these other ideas that it doesn't make sense to us. And I think it's fair to say that all of us also believe that we don't want to disrespect people that are outside the normal, but by nature there's man and woman, and that's kind of the culture war, what it comes down to. And the same with the bullying policy. It's the idea that everybody's a victim, and we shouldn't, I guess everybody's been bullied at some time in their life, and it's a matter of power, and some of this stuff is so difficult to legislate. You just can't. You have to make such broad definitions that you get everybody's afraid to say anything. I mean, and you can take those policies so far as to say a coach or a fellow teammate is, if they're too encouraging, they could be reprimanded and stuff. So all this cultural war stuff, I guess, I think I can speak for Joe, and perhaps I think too, Greg, you're here so you can comment, but
Yeah.
I think some of this stuff isn't necessary in our policy. Jade, what do you think?
To what you're discussing, do you mean where they've replaced the verbiage man and woman with the word individual?
Exactly.
Individuals.
Mhm. And that's in instructional materials.
Yes.
And so they don't want to recognize that people are men and women.
There are several places where it has a line through suggesting that we replace the verbiage man and woman with individuals. That's where it gets difficult to understand what is being said that we have to comply with federally, and then what is, being suggested.
I think that's a question, I mean, if that's what you choose as a board, then I think that is a valid question that we go to our lawyers with versus IASB, because IASB's already given us what they think. So then we take it to our lawyers and say, this is what we would like it to look like. I mean, if we have chunks of,
Yeah. One
ISB
question
gives us
versus
good,
please
yeah,
read
if
50
we have
policies.
Sure.
different chunks
That's a lot
of
different.
policies
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
wanna send, then we absolutely can do that. Make sure we're following the law
Yeah.
and
And the question
send
is
those.
is there a statutory reason why we can't make this change?
Right, is there a federal statutory reason, because I don't think there's a state one, I
Right.
think it would be federal, if it were. So we can definitely,
And
send
if
that.
there is if we are told by the lawyers that that is the law, then I guess you have to decide, are you going to say no to the law or not? I personally probably say no to the law because I think it's a bad law. So I guess that's every individual. You still have that right to say no to your, there's a comment for that when you have social disagreement.
A lot of people sitting in jail that did that.
Yes. Yeah. One of the things I also did not like is this idea about adding, as far as, let's see, let me get to the right policy here. Graduation attire, menstrual is fine. Instructional material selection.
I had a question about that policy in general.
Go ahead, Jake. I'll get to my thing here.
Yes, so I believe it was 506.
605.
No, 605, thank you. I had a question about, so we have 60501, instructional materials selection. The introduction of that has, the board has sole discretion to approve instructional materials for the school district. Then it goes on to say the authority is delegated to licensed employees to determine which instructional materials other than textbooks will be utilized. Then if you go down to 60501R, which you say is a, what's that word? Resolution. It reads fairly generally the same, except they are recommending taking out the board has final authority for the approval of textbooks, and then it reads the responsibility of the selection of instructional material is delegated to the professionally trained and licensed employees. I'm just confused on which one stands then, or why there's a resolution to the,
Does the board have final say?
right, does the board
or-
have final
or
say
have
over
we
what
get
you wanna pick for
surrendered
curriculum
over?
or not?
Yes.
I guess that's,
They do, I think, and I think the resolution, if I'm interpreting this, is more the instructional materials on the day-to-day basis, where you don't want to have to approve every
Every
single thing a
worksheet.
teacher does.
No.
got it.
And then the instructional material selection is, just like we did our language arts curriculum, you guys were part of that.
Sure.
You approved that. I don't know if that, I'm assuming that's why there's a resolution, but when you called me, I don't know, and that's another one, we can send that to the lawyers as well, because I don't know why do we have to have this resolution? I mean, we can double check with that as well.
And it does go, the resolution does break down probably
more than-
more so of the social construct of what you're talking about.
I think you're saying there's agenda behind a lot of this stuff. But
Well-
that some smart lawyers are trying to
I think
manipulate our systems.
I think the line of knowing what is mandated versus what is suggested becomes blurred. And so I like to know what was there and then what we're trying to change it to.
Mhm. I had two general comments on that. On some of this, I'd like to ask Dr. Burnett, don't you already have policies? I mean, if somebody is bullying, I mean, we have, what do you call it, assault and battery
We have a bullying
laws.
policy
We do
already,
have a
we have a
policy
bullying
already.
policy and we have a procedure that we investigate and it's very similar to
Yeah.
what,
On the one that I sent out originally,
Yeah. It was-
it had the old policy and then the new
Yeah.
policy.
Just what they suggested
Yeah.
gets added
Is the
in.
old adequate? I mean, I have confidence in the administration that they've been,
I think the old is adequate, I think that's another one, maybe we send that just to make sure that we are abiding by whatever code got passed, that it would be, but I would say we updated that, I mean, we have an investigation
yeah.
process that you interview kids, it's just exactly what they said.
Some of this, I think they try to make it so complicated and they make for a lot of confusion and opportunity for bad things also. One of the things I wanted to bring in here is 605.02. It says, and this is for instructional materials inspection. Now they want to add instructional and library materials inspection and display. You know, and it's after I thought about it, I don't know why we need to break out all this stuff. But then I came to the last sentence here, and it says here that this is on the next one where it goes into the objection to instructional materials, and they added library, but it says on the very end here that
I think you wanna go back.
instructional
Yeah, the
materials does not
Oh,
include
no, ma'am.
lesson plans. And so they're carving out different areas.
Down one page.
Yeah, this is
This way?
under 605.03.
Yes,
Okay,
right there,
stop.
stop.
605, the very last sentence there, right before legal references. Instructional materials does not include lesson plans. I mean, why shouldn't the lesson plans also be part of the instructional materials? I mean, what lawyer put that in there? Why? I mean, in general, if somebody has an objection, it all should be treated the same way with the paragraph before that. And so that's what makes me a little suspect of some of these changes that I think just lead to a path that we don't need, that everything, it's adequate now.
I think that goes just to that top part, Jim, where it says for purposes of prohibiting access to instructional materials, that Iowa law has defined it as to mean either printed or electronic textbooks and related core materials. So, I mean, that covers what it is. You can strike that out. Instructional materials does not include lesson plans, but it's not included in the definition above. So either way, it's not gonna be included, but you can take that out if you'd like.
Do you want me to do that?
I think
We're gonna
what
have
we
to have-
probably need to do is,
Have a
this
meeting,
is a
a
big
separate
group,
policy
this is a
meeting.
big policy,
Yeah.
and we need to sit down and have a separate meeting. And go through and weed it down to what you want,
Mhm.
and then take that as the first reading, and then the second reading. So, if we could table
I'm
this
going to
discussion,
agree with
I
that
think.
Completely.
Yeah.
Al, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm just wondering about, we have, like, this 60502 is a number that's ours, right?
Yeah, our policy is in black.
That's our current policy.
Yep, and their suggestions are
Yeah,
in
gotcha,
green,
gotcha.
and their strikeouts are in the striking colors.
I had trouble with that as well for a hot second until Catherine explained it to me, but
That makes sense.
I think there's just a few of these things that I think every single person, no matter your personal feelings on them, we need to understand better what we're accepting or what we're denying before we can make an educated decision on a policy that will remain in effect until potentially another resolution comes.
I absolutely agree, and I mean, I just think that when laws are passed and then we're in a bind.
Right.
Just like Al said, July 1st is when it has to happen. So it's like, whoa, okay. So, but I do think we meet, I mean, you have,
We'll invite
the
everyone.
three of you have already met. Jade has already asked some questions, so I know it was a hot topic, so
Yeah.
definitely.
We can invite
We can
everyone.
meet.
And just one other one I wanted to talk about really quick was getting something placed on a board agenda. I personally was wondering if it was, like, lack of better terminology, easier to get something on the agenda or harder. I wanted to know which reading. And as far as we could tell, there was no language in any of our policies on getting something on a board agenda from an outside entity. So
Easier.
in theory, it's easier. I
mean,
mean that
it's possible.
respectfully,
It's possible. That's what it's
But
possible.
upon reading this, 500 eligible electors of the district or 10% of the individuals who voted in the last school election. That's what I wanted to know. How did somebody get something on the agenda before?
Whichever number's lower.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
whichever
so
number.
so ours would
120.
be like
It's like 1,200,
six-
I think they had
It
1,200
wouldn't be a
votes.
big number.
No.
It wouldn't be
But
500.
in a larger
no.
district,
Yeah.
But I wanted to know what our policy
Well, we're
said
worried about
before. Were we making it
that's
harder or easier? I don't know. And I don't think that's a problem. Since I've been on the board, I don't think anyone's wanted something on the agenda or they haven't been heard. Would you agree?
right. No. Yes, I would agree.
Now,
Okay.
has there ever been a time when people have petitioned to get something on the board, or do they just come when they need to speak? They come during that beginning of
Yeah,
because
I don't,
the board sets the agenda,
Right.
so.
they do, yeah.
But
But we
this
can't
allows-
respond then. We can't respond to them in any capacity that initial time because it wasn't on the agenda.
But we
correct?
can
You
put it on the
individually
agenda,
respond to them.
we can put it on the
If
agenda
they
next time
petition
too,
it to
if
the
we
agenda,
would, like,
then
yes.
that's on the agenda.
Right,
so-
but I mean, say it was a matter that needed expedited, we
So I
would,
think to answer
Yeah,
your
yeah.
question, well, has it happened? It probably, most of the time it would happen and that somebody would make an appointment with your office, sit down and say, could you put an agenda item on? And then essentially the board president
Talk
and
to you
the
guys.
superintendent
Mhm.
then sets the agenda. And so I would think that,
Just
But
no
this
clear-cut
is
policy.
something, so
Yeah, there was
if they
nothing.
did come and you said, no, we don't wanna put that on,
They
then this
could go
allows someone to
petition them.
petition
Okay.
yeah.
and
I
it's a
think that's what
possibility
that-
to do it, yep,
right.
Mhm.
And there are some districts where that happens more
Uh,
than.
absolutely.
In some of the
Sure.
larger districts, they have had people blatantly acting inappropriately at board meetings. I can understand why some of this needs to get put in there, but I don't think we can make educated decisions without knowing more. That's how I personally feel.
Yeah.
So we're gonna table this, hold a meeting, bring it back as a first reading for next month.
We need a motion for that.
Yes, I think.
I think so.
I would motion we
Do you
table
need a
this,
motion to do that?
schedule a meeting.
I would think so. It's an action item.
Vote
So
on
you have
the-
to do, you have to either table it or
Next
vote
one.
on it.
Okay,
I
that was
will-
Greg.
Joe particularly wanted to be here, he just had
Yeah.
a difficult time missing.
I will second the motion to table it and
Very good, Jane. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Those opposed, no. Very good. We will move on to the policy review schedule, first reading, item number 11. Discussion on.
no changes.
Good news.
I did not have any questions or comments.
So these have
This
just been
was a lot
existing
easier.
policies that, yeah, we've already
Yeah.
been through, combed through.
Thanks to the work of the recent years. You know,
Yes, thanks to
It's pretty clean.
Catherine keeping that, getting
Indeed.
this back on. Okay,
Would someone like to make a motion on this item?
So moved.
So moved by Jade and
Second.
second by Al. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Next, we have item number 12, the policy review schedule, second reading. I can't find the second reading, but it's in here somewhere.
wellness.
These were pretty benign, too.
Physical, yep,
Yeah.
not
Yes.
student wellness.
Yeah, I don't think we had any.
Yes.
Comments or questions on this, discussion?
I don't think we had any.
The one question,
It-
was, go ahead, do you ask your question?
No, but it'll change that, won't it?
It's the responsibility of the student, of the superintendent?
To have those Zoom days, it'll change
Oh.
these policies.
Yes.
Yes, so one of the big pieces is that you can only have so many hours of Zoom days, which is which is fine, but it could have been for a crisis, or it could have been for anything, a
Would you
weather
like me to
delay
see
or
my
something like
example?
that, but
Yes,
it's
I
limited,
did.
so
Thank you.
Well
not,
played.
not all the time can you have that, so
But
which
it'll
is good, I think.
change.
Yeah, so what will happen is we'll put this one through as this, and then when we change it,
Then we have to go
First reading
back.
again.
Yep,
Mhm.
Okay, so this is the second reading?
Yeah.
This
Yes.
is the second, okay,
yes.
so we'll go through again, okay. Just that one policy though? We don't have to do the whole thing.
no, we're gonna approve them like they are,
Okay.
and then once we talk about the second, or the legislative ones, then
I
we'll
would
change.
assume that one is one that is, there's not a ton of wiggle room on, but.
No, you're
Did
right.
you read
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
You can only use
Going to
5 days for
Yeah.
instructional
Yes.
teaching via Zoom.
Oh, I see.
But,
Yeah,
so
I
we're
did
not
see
So let
going
us
to,
know
we're not
then. You
going
can
to
say they have to
revisit
Zoom
this
instead of
set of
having
policies
snow.
again, we're gonna
Just
approve
Just
them
that
as they are.
specific
And
portion.
then next, no, we're gonna approve them all as they are right now. And then once we address it again next month, then we'll change it.
Right, just
Bring it
that
back.
portion.
We'll bring it back.
Yeah, sorry.
I figured,
I
okay.
move approval of the second reading.
Second.
Second by Jade, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Next, we have item number 13, the consent agenda, and there's 3 items, A, B, and C. Any questions or comments on it?
You know you had a question
And we-
about some money.
And we have here Hazelton and Albertson, and we're on the committee.
There's a substantial amount on the sped thing to HST, was it HSCW or something, that was 105,000 or something, it was kind of significant.
That
But I'm
was
sure it was
sped billing,
billing, yeah.
fairly high cost.
Off the top of your head, what's our sped deficit right
If I was taking an educated guess, it's gonna be similar to last year.
now? Okay. So not a ton of difference
Yeah.
either way.
When we project it, there's a tool we can use to project it, and it projects like pretty level and maybe a little increase here in a few years.
Do you see that increasing as we continue to have more? That's what I was thinking.
You know, here's part of the problem, Jay, is that's a transient group of individuals a lot of times you're dealing with. And you get a heavy hitter that moves in your district,
The numbers can go
the numbers can go
significantly.
skyrocket.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
There's probably not a school out there that hits theirs right on.
Oh, no.
I wouldn't think so.
And as I'm just thinking most of the students that are in specialized programs that we are transporting, they're younger right now.
Yeah,
So
they
as
are.
long as they are here, we're gonna be transporting them
and
for
we
a
don't have
while.
any heavy hitters, but we got
There's a
Yeah.
couple.
Okay,
There's a couple.
yeah,
They're even in residential placements out of state that we don't even realize that we have to pay for them, but we have to pay for their educational costs.
sure.
Yeah.
That's where some of that dollar starts to, it's a need and it's hard because it seems like, one thing that I feel like the legislators have said throughout this process of learning to be an ambassador is they are constantly bombarded with needs. I need money for this, I need money for this, that you have to speak to them directly on how it's gonna impact Iowans in general. And some of these like preschool, early access and things like that help. First of all, districts get a grasp on what is even out there as far as the demographic is concerned. And then, understand what part of their community you're giving a better opportunity, I guess, if that's politically correct, an equal opportunity to get involved in these programs as early as possible. And so, yes, they always are being asked for money, but it seems like there's never enough to,
You know, the unfortunate thing with SPED is SPED's not even a state mandated, it's a federally mandated
Right.
law, and it's the biggest, it's the largest unfunded mandate in education in the nation, period. You can say that without stuttering at all, it is.
So I thought it was interesting, early in this meeting, we were talking about, talking about legislative priorities, talking about mental health and how, because we have our connections, we're doing pretty well in that. But when you talk to the state legislators, they tell you that's just a huge monster out there trying to figure out what's needed for mental health. Is the state doesn't have nearly enough money to do what's really needed for mental health. And they provide the money that helps us to be able to do those things that we do, so that's a big thing.
What's hard about that is there's no hard, fast cure either. So there's no set of money that can be distributed to something that says we have proof that once you reach this set of money, it will quote unquote cure. So it's really something that is evolving constantly, full of ideas and you know, everything takes.
There is a cure as if we're, what should I say, able to have that discussion. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but it's maybe things that people aren't willing to admit to or even take a look at.
Mhm.
Maybe hard things in the communities.
Well, I think there is things that are leading towards you know, pushing mental health in directions for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, strong communities, that's so important. Good thing Harlan, our community school district is
But
farm
you-
community, solid
Right.
communities, that's great.
But to attest to that, they are using verbiage in some of the meetings I've been in that statistically there are more fatherless homes than ever before. They are making direct correlations to some of the things
Absolutely.
that potentially could be beneficial to people. So they are using that language in some of these meetings, but money doesn't fix that.
Well, the exciting thing is when you hear some of our
Appreciate that
keynoters,
very much.
some of the keynoters like at ISB conference, where they bring examples of districts that are just really excelling in the student achievement, and they are way down in the bottom of the totem pole on the free and reduced lunch numbers and everything. And so the good people, good staff can really make the difference there.
Yeah.
I had one other question if you're, unless you want to keep talking about that topic on the money. Could you talk again one more time about the $25,000 we spent for IJAG is our portion of something, right?
It's our portion of her salary, so that's
Yes.
all we pay for her, so we
And
get a
that's
full-time teacher.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
And
So
she
the other
grew
part
that
comes
from 15 students to 50
Yeah.
next year, so it's
Yeah.
great, gives
So
them
the other
opportunities.
part comes from, I can't
The
remember.
state, the Department of Ed and
Okay.
us and Iowa job,
Okay.
Iowa workforce,
And
so
I
the
think
three.
it's a not-for-profit company, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
not-for-profit
it's not, yep, so she, yep.
organization involved in that.
Because I talked to
Yep.
somebody that was really excited about it, and involved in it, and getting benefit from it, they were very excited, so.
Yeah, it was a nice presentation a
Yeah.
couple
Pretty
months ago.
massive
Yeah,
Amazon charge this month.
Amazon,
That's
that's not too
flat fee.
unusual
We don't
in
pay
Jen
benefits
because
or
they're
anything
What it
like
is.
that. It is a very good deal.
Yeah, good.
I mean, and if she keeps growing it,
That's-
then we might
that's not-
look at
And she
another
was
one.
contagious.
Yeah.
It was infectious.
Yeah,
Her
she
love for
just
those
really-
students.
she
I
did,
enjoyed
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Was it
yeah.
Yeah.
consortium?
Okay.
Okay.
Brian, is this our,
Yeah, okay.
sorry to interrupt you, Brian, is
No,
this
no,
our
different.
end of the year? June 30th
Yes, it
is the end of the
Which
year?
means I did have a financial report in here. Now, we won't have one probably till about the time we get audit or the CR. I can give you a preliminary one, but that'd be about it because we'll have our year-end adjustments.
And that'll be for the August board meeting that we'll see those year-end numbers.
Probably September.
I see.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because the CAR is not due till the 15th of
I see.
September and the audit's right at the end of that month.
Mhm.
So that's it. I might have some preliminary. I will not have the final because till we get into September.
And I see we're a couple $1 million here away from budget to year-to-date and both revenue and expenses, and I imagine that falls in line with what,
Yep. Everything, on the revenue and the expenditure report, obviously I look at those before I put them out, but
Mhm.
yeah, everything's about what it should be.
Obviously.
Good.
Just
Very
joking,
good.
Brian. Gosh. It's been a little heavy in here today, guys.
yes, it does. And Jade had some good comments.
Yes, she did.
Okay.
Excellent question.
They were
She
great.
didn't have any good questions, though. Not that I remember.
Any other comments today, or could we
Just
have a
good
motion?
comment. You get one or the other.
Well, first we have to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
So moved by Jade and
Second.
seconded by Al. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. And next is action item H, adjournment.
So moved.
So moved by Jade,
Gosh.
Second.
second by Al. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
And aye. And those opposed, no. Okay. Thank you all.
All right, thank you guys.